Welcome back to Reliving Retro. This is Season 4, Episode 2. We have a very special guest on with us today. And go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey, everyone. This is Patrick Brickhouse from the Retro Blast podcast. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, guys. And thanks for inviting me to join you. I'm looking forward to talking about some games.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So a couple of getting to know you questions. So your introduction to gaming, this is usually our jumping off point, I guess, for all of our guests. Maybe like your first console, how you got it, how old you are, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So for me, I was probably, I want to say 3 or 4 years old, and this was in the 80s. And my family had bought an NES because everybody was buying an NES. So we had one, and I actually didn't know about it. I mean, I was very young, so I didn't really understand, much back then at all. And my sister, my older sister, came and got me one day, and she was like, "Hey, I want to show you something." And she took me down to, we had like this, we called it the playroom, but it was like a living room area.
Yeah.
And we had this tiny little rabbit ear tube TV, and that was the kind of room that had the wood paneling, all around. So it was very retro now. But she was showing me Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. And that was, it came with the system then. And she was showing me Super Mario Brothers. And I remember just being mesmerized, like absolutely mesmerized. I didn't understand, I knew what a TV was, and I'd watch TV shows, and, things would move around and that kind of thing. But I didn't realize that you could control something on the TV.
Like interact with it.
Right. And so she handed me the controller, and I made Mario jump. I walked into a Goomba, and that's where it started. I've been in love with gaming ever since. So I've been playing my whole life.
Perfect.
And so, I started with Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt on the NES.
Very cool. It's funny that you said walked into a Goomba, because I'd actually seen something. It was like in a list of like unbelievable facts or something like that. And it said the enemy that has killed the most people in any video game is the first Goomba in Super Mario Brothers.
That makes perfect sense.
And I was like, actually,
it's hard to quantify that, but it would make sense to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was just like, really? They can't jump? And I was just like, well, that's a lot of people's first game they ever play.
Especially for like a 3 or 4 year old who doesn't really know, and I was very young. So, but from there, it just kind of took off.
And watching my daughter play it, like I've seen her play the same level of Super Mario Brothers, I think, since she was like 2, and now she's 8.
Okay.
So now she gets past that level, no problem. But when she started playing it, that Goomba killed her every single time. So it does make a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite types of games to play, like favorite genres?
Like in the retro space, or just in general?
Just in general.
Gosh. Well, my favorite is survival horror. Like that's
cool.
Number one for me.
Nice.
I'm really into Resident Evil. I love the series very, very much. I try to talk about it on our show as much as I can, as well as just in general. It's just something I love. Silent Hill. And then, of course, our last episode was about Dead Space, which is another game that I adore. So I love that. I'm also a big Zelda fan, so I like adventure games quite a bit. I'm not really into I talked on another show about this. I'm not really into the whole like crafting genre, like games that are super huge and where you have to like hack at rocks and stuff like that to build things. Like that's just never really been something I enjoy in a game. So like that's one genre I don't really like, but I'll play just about everything else. I don't play MOBAs or anything like that. I think I prefer straightforward games. I like to get in and like experience a story, or that's kind of like what I was raised on. I was raised on side scrollers, and so that's kind of been in my DNA. But the breakaway from that is survival horror. Like I really love those types of games quite a bit. I just played last night. I just finished Shadow of Rose for Resident Evil Village, the DLC.
Okay.
And
cool.
loved that. So that's probably my favorite. But like I said, I like action games. I like, everything.
Would you consider Alan Wake a survival horror game, or is that more of a psychological thriller?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I've heard a lot of debates. Like I don't like to, gatekeep anything, right? And I don't like to tell anybody what is and what isn't something. I don't care. But at the end of the day, survival horror, usually the school of thought is that you have limited resources and you have to survive horrors, right? So like that's the easiest way to look at it. So Alan Wake, I think, is a horror game. And I wouldn't say a case could be made, right? But I would say it's more of just like a horror psychological thriller, like you said. With, that's what I would say.
That was if Halo 3 was not on Xbox 360, I think Alan Wake would probably be my favorite 360 game.
Really?
Which I think would surprise kind of a lot of people, but absolutely
it's a great game.
love that game. Yeah.
If you guys actually, sorry to go off the cuff here, but I actually just recently played through a game that I'd never played called Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh, I never heard.
Have you heard of this? So it came out. It was it's on 360. It's the reason I bring it up. And since I like games that have like weird stories, I'd heard about it. It looked like just a generic third-person action game, like a military shooter, but it is not. It is very like dark and depressing, and there's some really haunting stuff in that game.
Nice.
And played through it, and I'm like, the studio had like this vision for a game, and apparently the publisher was like, well, we have Spec Ops as a license, and Call of Duty sells a lot, so put Spec Ops in the title. And so that's what they did. But the game is not a third-person military shooter. Like it is dark. It's like Jacob's Ladder type, stuff. Like it is very haunting. So I'd recommend playing it if you've never done it. You can get it on eBay for like $15.
Nice.
So yeah,
I have to give that one a shot.
Yeah.
So of your modern consoles, I guess, what are the modern consoles that you play the most?
So I have all the modern ones. I have PS5, Series X, and Switch. And I play the Xbox Series X the most. But the reason for that is because I was an Xbox guy, I had a GameCube and stuff like that, but all of my friends had 360s. So we played online together.
Yep.
And as I've gotten older, a lot of us, people move away, and you know how it is, right?
Yep.
So the time that we get to spend together is on live games. So we play, and Xbox is really good with PC players too. So some of them have migrated to PC. So we play a lot of games that are cross-play for those. So majority of my time is spent on Series X, but I do love my PlayStation 5, right? I'm playing God of War Ragnarok on that now. And I love my Switch. So so like I have them all and I play them all quite a bit, but I would say the Series X probably the most.
Gotcha. I'm also more of an Xbox guy than a PlayStation guy. And for me, it really just came down to Halo being. And that's why I got a 360 over getting a PS3. Because at the time, that was the first generation where I bought my own console. And I couldn't afford both. You know what I mean? Because at that point, I was too old to be getting them as like Christmas presents and stuff. You know what I mean?
I pre-ordered my 360 at Blockbuster Video.
That's
That's where I went to go pick it up. Yeah, I picked it up on release day in 2005 at Blockbuster, and I had gotten Perfect Dark Zero for the launch title, and they didn't have it in yet, so I had to go back when they were opening the boxes and get it later. So I was just like messing around with the Xbox 360 menu for half the day.
That's funny because I probably would have completely forgotten about Perfect Dark Zero until you just brought that up.
Most people do forget about Perfect Dark Zero.
But I remember my buddy, he got his Xbox 360 on launch day too. So he got Perfect Dark Zero and I believe Madden 06 with McNabb on the cover. And I think that one was so dumbed down because it was like the new gen version. Like I don't even think there was.
They were hyping that up too. They were hyping up the new gen.
It looked amazing, but I don't think you could do like half the stuff you could do on the other one.
No.
But anyway,
I think the best launch title they have is Condemned: Criminal Origins.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, I never played it, but I remember like seeing.
People don't talk about it much, but it is a very good survival. Well, I wouldn't call it survival horror game, but it's a horror game for sure.
As far as survival horror games go, we played a couple of them on the show so far. We played Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, and Silent Hill. I absolutely love Silent Hill. I can't wait to get to number 2.
Oh, so have you ever played Silent Hill 2?
Yeah, I played it a little bit when I was a kid, and I played Silent Hill 1 when I was a kid, but I never beat them. But last year when we played Silent Hill, I played through the entire thing for the first time. Cool. And I made myself sit in like my basement with all the lights off during it. So
that's the way to do it. That's the way I tell everybody. Like, a lot of people will jump into Twitter or jump into Reddit and stuff like that and say, like, well, I played this game, it wasn't very scary. And it's like, well, how did you play it? Well, I played it on my laptop, with you got to have like either a good set of headphones, turn the lights off, crank the sound up. Otherwise, you're not getting the experience.
Yeah, you're
We
not getting
talked about
scared
that
at
on
all.
our Dead Space episode. We're like, if you don't think it's scary, that's fine. But if you want to experience what they intended, you need to have like the sound is 50% of that, especially
Right.
for horror games.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I started it with my headphones on, and after like an hour or so, I fucking turned them off and put my speakers on.
I'm telling you, Dead Space will still get me. I've played that game like 15 times, and it still gets me because I play it on my surround sound system, and I have like speakers behind me, and I can't. I get like tensed up because the sound design in that game is insane.
Yeah,
So
I was
good.
wearing these headphones during the playthrough, and there was a point. There's a point where you hear a knock on the door in the game, and I froze because it sounded legit like somebody knocked.
Like
on the
it was
door to
like
my
it was
right.
somebody knocking on your door.
Yeah, and I was like, no,
that's good
way,
sound
dude,
design.
That's so scary.
It's good stuff.
Anyway, all right, let's get to the game that we did play this week. But before we do that, I just want to go ahead and plug our Patreon, right? Because why not? We gotta. $5 a month to support, and if you want us to play your game quicker, like Yaiser usually says, it's basically a fast pass. Go ahead, it's $5 a month to support there, and then you can add your game to the list, and it's a much smaller list than our normal master list, and we play one Patreon game every single month, so we will definitely get to your list or your game rather that much faster. Also, if you don't want to support it, monetarily, I guess, then just on the YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment of a game that you do want us to play. All that kind of stuff helps out the algorithm a lot. I know it's annoying to hear, but it truly, truly does. So we appreciate any of that that you guys do. So we did play War of the Monsters this week. And before we get into the game itself, Yaiser, had you ever played this game before?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think so.
No.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
Same. I'd never played it, and I never heard of it. What about you, Pat?
Nope. I had it in my collection, but I never played it before.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you played it on original hardware, Pat?
I did.
Nice.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
Played it on the PS2.
Yeah, I emulated mine. We don't have big retro collections. I used to a long time ago. Maybe close to 10 years ago now at this point, but I sold it all off. And so most of the gaming that we do is through emulation. But
okay.
So roughly how long did you guys play the game for? You can start. Pat, you can start.
I played. So I tried to kind of fit in little gaming sessions after work, when I could. And I would say altogether, I probably played 4 or 5 hours of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
Very
cool.
nice.
So did you beat the game?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Wow.
I actually spent a lot of time just kind of messing around with it. So that's what I like to do too. And I wanted to kind of get a feel for a lot of the characters and things like that, and just kind of, play free for all, and just kind of, I like to kind of just see what I can discover. Right.
Yeah.
Which wasn't much. I mean, a few things that I didn't know were there, like a couple hours into it. It's like, oh, I can do this, that kind of thing. But no, I didn't play through the campaign. Did either of you?
Yeah. So I played, funny enough, I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and, try to play an hour or two of this game. We use this one website pretty religiously called howlongtobeat.com.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we go there to kind of just get a, kind of like a gauge on how long it is going to take to beat it. Yeah. And it said 3 hours for the main story or whatever. So I was like, okay, I can carve out an hour or two here to see, how far I can get. And so I played for 2 hours the first time I played it. And then a couple days later, I'm like, okay, I want to try and finish this game. So one day before work, I was like, all right, I have a half hour. Let's see, how much, if I can at least get past this one fight. And then the fight that I got past, I beat that guy, and then it was just that was it. I beat the game. I was like, oh, that was the last guy. That's crazy. So I played it for about 2.5 hours, and I beat the game with Kongar. I think it's his name.
Yeah,
the big ape guy.
We can call him King Kong, right?
Yeah, pretty much King Kong.
Yeah.
See, I one of the reasons I didn't beat it is that I would actually. I will say the game's hard.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty difficult, and I probably should have bumped the difficulty down. But
I put it on easy because I was like,
I
know what?
I should have probably done that because game is very challenging. But I will say that I got up to, as far as the campaign, you can tell me how far I got, because in the campaign I got after the ants with where that robot is.
Okay.
He's up on the perch, and you throw his little spheres back at him. So I was doing that, and like I would just actually, I got to that point and I was like, okay, I want to try another character. So I came out, and then I would just do it again. So that's kind of what I was doing.
So I think as long as you weren't dying like a ton, I would probably say about another half hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
All right.
It seemed like there were like maybe like 8 to 10 fights or something like that.
Okay. That sounds about right.
Yeah, it's really not that far off. Yaiser, what about you? How long did you play it?
I played through the story for probably like 45 to an hour.
Yeah.
I got past the first boss, but I had to turn it off. I was a little frustrated with a couple certain aspects of the game.
Yeah.
And you could see that in the gameplay video coming out. But
nice.
And then today I played a 4-player free-for-all once with every character.
Nice.
So probably an hour and a half total.
See, that's an aspect of the game that I wish that we got to experience, is playing the game like co-op or like multiplayer or whatever.
Yeah.
Being able to play against people, I think that would probably, my enjoyment factor probably would have been a little bit higher for this.
Yeah, I was thinking that today too.
Yeah, like most games. Like I think one of our highest rated like fun games was NFL Blitz, but it's because like in the gameplay video we played it against each other. You know what I mean? Like if we had just played it by ourselves, we probably wouldn't have had as much enjoyment out of it. But Yaiser, what would you say your favorite character to use was? Because you said you tried out a bunch.
I liked the robot. I don't remember his name, but
Robo 47, that guy, or the Ultra V guy, the guy like the
not
Gundam
the Gundam.
Guy.
That's the guy I used in the playthrough. Was like the Gundam ripoff guy. But I think I like the other robot because he can jump high as shit. He's got like rockets on his back.
Oh,
and then there's the bug. The bug can fly. It uses energy to fly, but you can just fly until you run out of energy. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. My only playthrough, but for my playthrough of this game, I didn't really look at the characters that much. I just saw Big Ape Guy, and I'm like, that's what I think of when I think of monster movies and stuff like that. I think of like King Kong, so I'm gonna be King Kong. You know what I mean? So I just chose King Kong like right off the rip, and plus like he's on the cover of the game, so I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna pick that dude. And then I just started going through the game. So it wasn't until I talked to Yaiser earlier that I had come to the realization, I guess, that you fight all the other characters that you could have been. I thought you were just fighting like random things, and then so I'm stupid, but it's fine. Pat, what characters did you enjoy the most?
Ultra V.
Ultra V?
Ultra V was my favorite. Yeah,
guy, right?
I think that what's funny is that I was looking up before I played the game. I was looking up, like images and videos and stuff like that. And I kept seeing him in those, and I was like, wow, he must be pretty popular. And after playing the game, I see why. He's probably one of the best in the game, at least in my opinion. I played the first. I had to look up the names because I forgot them, but Tojera.
Oh,
I played him
the
first.
the
Godzilla one.
Yeah.
He was kind of. So that's the thing is, nowadays we have a lot of games where they constantly are updating and balancing things so that everything's even. But you guys know that back then the game came out, and if there was not a balance, could find the character that was the best one or broken. And I think a lot of the characters were really varied, right? There's a lot of combos in this game that I didn't realize until playing it longer.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a few simple ones, but after getting, pretty messed up by a few of the characters in the game, I realized that there was a lot of different like combos, right?
Cool.
That you could figure out. And I was playing with a few of the different characters, and then I got to Ultra V and I was like, this just feels good. Like this feels fast. He's got all these different moves. He can, I just stuck with him actually for the majority of my playtime. He's super fun to use. Yeah.
Did either of you try Kongar at all?
I did.
Yeah.
And what did you think of him?
He's fun too. He's actually not bad. I would say that he's one of the better characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's strong and he's got like good mobility too. He's like not slow as shit.
Yeah, I thought he was
that's
going to
another
be slow.
thing. Yeah.
I thought he was going to be slow. But I was just like, you know what? I'm probably punching people's faces off, so it's going to be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I only played through as Kongar, so that's the only experience that I have.
Okay.
But I mean, some of the other characters do look really cool. If that means anything.
No, the designs are really good, and I mean, these are the guys that made Twisted Metal Black.
Oh, okay, same people.
Yeah, so like Incognito. So which is why I think one of the unlockable characters is Sweet Tooth. So if you have, I
didn't
found out
know
if you have a save file of beating the game with Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal Black on your memory card, you unlock him in the game.
That's
Oh
awesome.
wow, that's
I love
Yeah.
I love when games do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it might just be a skin for one of the characters. Might be for Congar. I can't remember, but yeah, he is in the game. Pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Which this game is a lot like Twisted Metal, like just with monsters instead of cars. In a
Yeah,
way,
right.
I mean, there's not, you know, if there was like a free for all, but like I like Twisted Metal quite a bit. And Twisted Metal Black is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
and I definitely could see the DNA of Twisted Metal Black in this.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Same developer, so it makes sense.
See, when I was playing it, I got the DBZ Budokai kind of feel, but a lot like slower and other things to worry about. You know what I mean? Like I constantly had helicopters shooting at me, which was annoying.
yeah,
Stuff like that. But before we get to other aspects of the gameplay, let's talk about story. And Yaiser, you can start it off for story.
All right, so in game, the story is basically non-existent, right? You just monsters destroying cities, fighting each other. But in the manual set up pretty cool. So it looks like supposed to look like newspapers and like articles in a newspaper, which I thought the presentation of that was pretty cool. But I guess they're all alien. Every single one of those is aliens from Alien Invasion, and for some reason they came to Earth to fight each other. I don't know why. But and then that first boss is actually a machine that was made by the humans, the Earth humans, to like stop them and to, like kill the aliens essentially. But obviously that failed. But still, I think the story is pretty generic. And if you don't have the manual, you don't even know what the story is. So I went with I'm actually back and forth between. I'll give it a 2.5.
Okay. All right, I get that. I landed kind of right where you were with it, but I landed a little lower. I hit 2 because for me the gameplay is kind of what drives this game. The story really doesn't matter a whole lot. I almost gave it like a 1.5, and then I bumped it up because when you beat the game, you get a little origin story for your monster. And at Congar, if you're wondering, is it just a chimp from space? It's literally like he's in like a rocket, and you see him, and then he just starts kind of falling down to Earth, and he burns up, and he hits the ground, and he's all mad and huge, and then he goes killing people.
So like King Kong,
yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I landed at a 2 for it. You know what I mean? It's certainly not anything close to like a Fable or anything like that story wise.
No.
So yeah, 2. What about you, Pat?
Yeah, I gave it a 2. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You know, like it doesn't waste your time.
Right.
And it knows what it is. The developers know what it is, but I do like that they at least took the time to give them their backstories and stuff like that. And then again, that's a lot like Twisted Metal. When you finish the game, you get a character story or resolution, right?
Yeah.
So they did the same thing with this, according to what you just said. Yep. So I think I do like the cinematics. It's a very 50s sci-fi monster movie. And I like that they kind of give you an idea of what's going on. But again, it's nothing expansive. So yeah, I go with a 2.
Right.
Fair.
And story can sometimes be a tricky category because not all games need a story to be a good game. Case in point, games like NFL Blitz are a lot of fun without having much of a story, or Crazy Taxi is a lot of fun without having much of a story at all. So those games overall suffer a little bit because they get like a 1 or a 1.5 or something like that in the story department because they really just don't have one.
Right.
So yeah, this shouldn't be a knock against this game, the fact that there isn't really a story, but we'll get into
other knocks.
Other things that we can talk about. Let's move into gameplay now, though. Pat, do you want to kick it off for gameplay?
Sure. So essentially, I guess with each stage or when you start, you've got you're facing off against another monster in like a big arena.
Yep.
And you've got helicopters and tanks and all that kind of stuff flying around shooting at you, and you really just kind of have like this massive playground to fight each other. And you can not only get up close and lock on to the character you're fighting, which you press L1 and R1 to hold a lock.
Yep.
You beat each other up, and you can send each other flying through the air and crashing through buildings. You can climb buildings, you can throw things at each other. You can really, you have it's like a sandbox little playground, right? You can just do whatever you want. And so really it's a fighting game in that sense, to where you're just trying to wear the other one down and win. but you don't just punch and kick each other. You're actually doing a lot of different things with the environment to try to win. I guess that's the easiest way to sum it up.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what did you give the gameplay?
I gave the gameplay a 4, actually.
Okay.
And I did that because I had a lot of fun. I think that while I did have a little bit of issues with the controls, I try to kind of remember it's a product of its time, right?
Yep.
The controls were a little wonky here or there, but once they clicked, I felt fine, and I did really enjoy myself. And so I think the gameplay overall, it gives you a lot of options to take each other out. I think the AI overall is pretty decent. It's predictable, right? When you wear it down, it'll run away and try to get health and all that. But I did really have fun throwing tanks and impaling each other and throwing each other around. Like, the gameplay is really solid. This game does what it does very well.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of what you're saying here, I did actually have quite a bit of fun playing the game, as long as it's hard to explain, I guess, but my character constantly felt like he was on roller skates. And I don't know if you had that issue with all characters, or if it was just Kongar, or maybe a couple of them have that issue. But I had a really hard time controlling them at some points in the game. And that was my biggest issue with, like, the controls. And I also, I think, just to get the negatives out of the way, I also think that one of my biggest issues was the fact that I feel like you got, like, stunned all the time. Like, if you're getting hit, you just keep getting hit, and it's never
like
ending.
stun locked.
Yeah. And it's just it's bad. That happened to me so many times in this game, and even, like, to the point where if you want to like defend yourself, like with Kongar or whatever, he puts his hands, like, over his face, like he puts his arms over his face in, like, an X or whatever, and he, like, braces. Even that, like, doesn't number one take away damage. You're still getting hit, and you're getting hit for damage, but it also, it doesn't break the stun lock either. Like, you can't do that in the middle of getting hit. You know what I mean? You have to do that while, like, right before you get hit, kind of.
Yeah, like, you have to time it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which I suppose is just another wrinkle, of difficulty added to the game. But I guess the gameplay didn't make it feel like I could just pick it up and be good at it. I had to bump it. I had to, like, bump it down to easy, I guess, to be able to get through the game.
Yeah, it's hard.
I can't even imagine the difficulty on hard, because I was frustrated.
I didn't play it on hard, but normal was hard. Normal felt like hard.
Yeah. So I landed on a 3.25 for this one.
Okay.
I had it at a 3. I had it at a 4 initially. I was like, let me see if I can get the handle on these controls here. And even when I was beating the final boss, like, I still really wasn't able to get the control down the way I wanted to. And it like I said, it felt really, really slippery, like Kongar was on roller skates the entire time, and I'm like running past the little health pellets and stuff like that. I'm like, come on, dude, get the thing I want you to get.
Yeah, that was a little wonky. Yeah, picking up health and stamina, which you have the stamina bar. I guess we should mention that, but
energy.
It's hard to actually get to pick those up. Like, I felt like there were a lot of times where I was on them and it just wouldn't register. And I know if you're full on either one, it won't do it.
Yeah, they don't pick it up.
There were times where I needed it, and I felt like I had to be pinpointed. Like, there was maybe a little atom in the middle of my character that had to be lined up with that thing to actually pick it up.
Right.
It was very, very precise.
And I also had a lot of difficulty picking up just, like, cars and stuff like that to throw sometimes.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I definitely hit circle. And then it's just not picking anything up. And I'm like, oh. And then by that time, like, the guys have caught up to me. But I will say, to its credit, I thought the AI was really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, them being smart enough to be like, okay, I'm low on health, I got to get out of here, try and find some other health.
Exactly.
And there was a point in this, I wish I had it recorded, only for this one part, I think, but there was I can't remember who I was going against, but there was a point in my playthrough where the guy was trying to get away from me, and he kept climbing up a building, and then I would climb up after him, and he would climb down, and then it just was over and over and over again, him climbing up and down the building, and I couldn't catch him until eventually I just ran over to the building over, and like the next building over, and I grabbed, like, the radio antenna, whatever it is, and I just impaled him with that from far away.
Yep.
And that killed him, which that was a lot of fun. Just throwing crap at the other monsters was probably my favorite part about this game. Even to the point where like I think it's the level with the ants, like because there's like a ton of them. There's a bunch of ants. And you could pick up one ant and throw it at the other ants, and I thought that was a lot of fun.
I told you I like to kind of mess around and see what I can discover, which is why I kept, or why I played as long as I did and just mess around. One of the things that I discovered by accident is what you were just saying. You would go up after them.
Yeah,
I would do that too, but a lot of times what I would do is try to destroy the building to knock them off. And one time, I was fighting one, and I was like hitting on the building, trying to bring him down. Well, he comes down as I'm destroying the building, and the building falls on him,
and it killed him.
KO.
That's crazy.
Wow. So that's you knock them out if you can get a building to fall on them, and it happens to you too. But if it falls over, which they'll kind of slowly fall, and it lands on them, they're done.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that was another thing I was going to say for positives though, is that just the environment is so, I guess, usable, right? Like you can pretty much break anything and use a piece of it. You
can pick up almost anything. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and throw it. So gameplay was certainly frustrating at some points with the controls. Other than the controls, I had a good time with this game. Yeah, Yaiser.
So I think I was a little more harsh than you guys are going to be in this category.
Makes sense, man.
And also my headphones died for a minute, so I might repeat some points. So sorry,
right.
bear with me here. But yeah, like you were saying, the controls were like so clunky, and I couldn't like get used to it. I played for an hour and a half, and I just couldn't get used to it. I feel like they were inconsistent, especially with the camera. Sometimes my right stick worked with the camera, sometimes it just didn't. I don't know. Couldn't figure out why or how to fix that. I thought the energy system is okay, but like the fact that your basic normal attack costs you that much energy, so if you use all your energy, you can't even like punch somebody. I thought that was ass. I thought that was garbage. Because like you're fucked, and then you got to go run around I don't know. I really didn't like that part of it at all. Like, sure, your special attacks, your range attacks cost energy. That's fine by me. But my regular punches too, I didn't like that at all. And then like you were saying, Rigney, the stun locks. I could not figure out how to get out of those stun locks.
They were rough at times.
Add insult to injury, at the end of the stun lock, you get kicked fucking across the map too.
Oh, and when you land, not only that you get kicked, it takes off damage, but then when you fly across the map, and then when you land, that also takes off damage.
Yeah, and if you hit a building, or you take damage for like every impact,
which I think is good, like as far as like realism goes and stuff like that. But it's also just another tick in the difficulty meter. You know what I mean? Like just one more thing that makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah,
but you can also do that to them, right? If you knock them into, it can make fight. It's back and forth, I guess, right? Because it can make your fight easier if you exploit that. Yeah. But it can definitely be used on you, and they will do it quite a bit. I got grabbed a lot. By Congar especially, he likes to grab.
He's the grabby motherfucker.
He's a grabby one, yeah.
But yeah, that being said, when the controls were working, like it felt like they should have been working. It was it felt okay. So I feel like this game could have been a lot better if I could just pick when I wanted to lock onto somebody and pick when I wanted to lock off. But even just as far the first boss is as far as I got in the story, and when he's doing that spinny thing on the ground, you have to jump up on the pillars to avoid it. I couldn't even jump on the fucking pillar sometimes. I just couldn't get up there. I was so frustrated. You'll see. I was yelling at my goddamn computer.
Is this like Superman 64 frustrated, or not quite that bad?
I don't think anything comes of that.
Yeah, because I don't know. Because it was like it wasn't as shitty of a game as Superman 64 is. So like something as simple as jumping. I just want to be able to jump on this fucking thing,
Yeah.
But I knocked it all the way down to 2, guys.
Oh man. Okay. Hated it, huh? I respect it.
I kind of did. I think I texted you when you asked me if I played it yet, and I said, yeah, I kind of hate it.
I didn't think. Yeah,
sound like my co-host.
I think like everything you said is fair though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I had a
of
lot of the
course.
same, especially I actually forgot to bring this up, but you just brought it up with the locking on. I don't know if there was a button for it. I couldn't figure it out. I don't know how to like lock on to one thing and then especially because like you play against multiple monsters all the time
Mhm.
in the story. So it's like I don't know how
Yeah.
to switch my lock on from one monster to the next.
Yeah.
So I found it very annoying that I'm holding L1 and R1 to lock onto this dude that's in front of me, but then he runs away because he's low on health, and then his buddy comes in and just starts like whomping on me, and I'm like, okay, how do I switch the lock onto this guy? And then so I'm like, okay, if I take it off, I'll have to like lock onto the guy that's closest to me, right? No, I
Mhm.
lock onto the dude that ran across to the other side of the city. So yeah, that was pretty frustrating because then I'm just chasing the other guy that I could lock onto, and kill him before I even try to lock in onto the guy that's closer to me.
Mm.
That was probably one of the more annoying points. But yeah, like guys are even like what you said. When the controls were working good and I didn't run into like those problems, I had a lot of fun with this game, and that's why I do think that if we were to play it together, like in like an
Yeah.
actual like multiplayer like arena or whatever, I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. When we're
Yeah.
both experiencing the jank, not just one person.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I guess I'll start off with visuals. And I don't know. I think visuals didn't blow me away really. I do really like the character design. I thought that they were a lot of fun, but to be fair, most of the characters are kind of ripped off,
Yeah.
more famous
Like an
popular
homage.
characters.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
So that's essentially, so I didn't try to give it like a really high grade because of that. And most of the environments are kind of the same. It's like buildings for the most
Yeah.
part.
Mhm.
So it's not like the environments really like drastically change from level to level. And I don't know if you play like a quick fight or whatever, if there's way more environments you can select from, because I only played the story mode. But I landed at like an above average score here. I landed at a 3 because I think for a PS2 title, it doesn't have. I don't think it looks like a old like gross bulky PS2 game. You know what I mean? Because like some of those PS2 games like can look like kind of bulky and blocky, and I don't think it really like looks like that. I think the character models are really really good. So yeah, I landed at a 3 for
Mm.
visuals. Pat,
I actually gave it a 4 for visuals.
nice.
But the reason is because, again, going back and playing it, and I played it on the PS2. I played
Mhm.
it on my older TV in here,
Yeah,
and I think that I like the character designs. I know they're kind of ripped off, but I see it as like a really kind of funny homage to King Kong and Godzilla and Ultraman and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff. And so I think that for 2003, this game looks really good. And because I remember a lot of games and how they looked in 2003, and a lot of them were very uh, gray and clunky and boxy and that kind of thing. And while the city is kind of boxy and everything, there's a lot of colors. There's a lot of I guess everything's kind of clear. You can kind of see pretty clearly in the cities. You can kind of tell what's
Mhm.
a building and what's the helicopters stand out, the neon signs, the lights, like everything looks really good in that respect.
Yep.
And a lot of times when I go back and play these games, I think of like my memories. It's like when I played Grand Theft Auto 3 the first time. I remember being blown away and be like, man, no game will ever look as good as this. Like
Right.
it looks like I'm really in the city and there's people. And then I go back and play it now and I'm like, wow, okay, I remembered that wrong. Like
Yeah.
it's still a great game, but when you go back and you play a lot of games from that era, you imagine that the graphics were better than they probably were.
Yeah.
And so if I compare it to a lot of other games that I've played from 2002, 2003, 2004, I think this game aesthetically and from an artistic standpoint looks really good. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it looks good for the time.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree there. I guess I just wish there were more like environments. The environments thing is one of the biggest knocks I had on it.
I would
Because
agree.
really just
Yeah.
felt like they were just fighting in cities like the entire time,
Yeah.
except for like the boss battles where they were like, I don't know, maybe slightly adjacent from the
You
city.
go to like the Arctic and throw snowballs and glaciers at each other.
Yeah, I mean, buildings obviously are like the more fun like battleground, right? Because of all the
Yeah,
interaction you can do
for
with
sure.
the environment. But yeah, just a little bit more variety, I think, would have bumped up
Right.
my visual score on that one.
Mhm.
What about you,
That's
Yaiser?
fair. So I'm more along the lines of where Pat is on this. I thought it looked pretty good for like for how old it was.
Yeah.
The monster designs, like specifically, I thought were awesome. I thought they all looked pretty cool. Also, like, you know, the exploding buildings and fucking knocking shit over, like that's pretty cool. And also certain characters with certain combos would like do cool shit. Like Godzilla, if one of his combos, his very last move, like all just like spikes come flying out of his chest and like impale somebody.
Oh,
So
really?
I thought,
Yeah.
like, yeah, the
That's
combo
cool.
animations I thought were pretty cool, and the what are they? The special attack animations I thought were pretty cool. Most of them too.
Yep.
And if you played like free for all or any like the other, not adventure but the other modes,
Yeah.
the winner of the match did this cool like dance or whatever. So like the eyeball lightning dude pulled his eyeball out and like dribbled it between his legs and shit.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty dope. So,
Nice.
but as far as the color goes, the color was all right, but I feel like there was like a slight like gray filter over everything. Probably because, you know, the world is in the middle of destruction and like annihilation. But so
Like
I
there's a
knocked it
haze,
down.
like a fog. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to give it a 4, but I didn't quite get there. So I'm giving a weird one here with a 3.9.
Oh, I like
I
it.
didn't think I didn't want to go all the way to 4 for it. But
I
it's
will
close.
say though, a lot of these games back, you know, to what Pat said, you know, a lot of these games like 2003 or whatever, to get around like graphical limitations, you know, maybe one side of the city you couldn't see one side of the city from the other, in most of these games, and they would add sort of like this fog effect just to kind of make it like,
Yeah.
oh, it's foggy over there. That's why you can't see the other
That's
side,
why you
right?
can't see. Like
Yeah,
Turok.
Silent Hill
Yeah.
does this all the time. Yeah, Turok is a perfect
Turok,
example as
Silent
well. But you know what I mean? Like they didn't do that in this game. So you know, props to them for that. I think I fell to the 3 because I was looking for a little bit more variety in environments and stuff like that.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
All right, Yaiser. Let's do sound, okay, buddy?
Okay, yeah. I mean, as far as sound goes, the music in the game is fine. It works for the game, right? It's like it kind of fits. It fits kind of perfect. It just sounds like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but it works. And but I thought the coolest sounds in this game were navigating through the menu. Like your ups and downs and like all the sounds that the menu made, I thought were fucking awesome. So I don't know. Did you said this weird like, I don't know. It just sounded super cool, like alien guns and like laser blasts or whatever. I thought it sounded dope. So I gave it a 3.5 for sound.
Okay.
Mainly because of the menu noises.
That's so funny because I feel
satisfying.
like that's not a thing that you really ever pay attention to.
No, but it grabbed the first time I pressed down on the menu, I was like, whoa, that sounds fucking cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take over. I'm sorry, Yaiser. What did you give it?
3.5.
3.5. Okay. I probably should have been paying attention. Okay. Yeah, I landed a little bit higher than that because I think one of your biggest gripes with the sound was the fact that it was kind of the same, like, you know, orchestral type of music. It was kind of like a big monster movie type of sound to it, right? Like the big destruction scene in a monster movie. That's what it sounded like for like all the fights. But I actually thought it fit it perfectly. Like I actually loved all of that noise that was happening. I tend to like that. So I landed on a 3.75 here, and I loved all the sounds that like the monsters were making, and you know, I mean, like each of them obviously had their own sound, but I thought that they all sounded really good, and there was just so many sound effects going on, but it all sounded good to me. I don't know, like all like the machine gun firing and stuff like that whenever you got close to you know, like helicopters or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I thought the sound was pretty spot on for what it should have been. 3.75 for me. What about you, Pat?
I actually also gave it a 3.75.
Nice.
I actually initially was thinking maybe a 4, but I have an older sound bar up here, right?
Yeah.
That I use with a subwoofer. So it's actually kind of nice to go back and play these games with like a theater sound. And this game is loud. I actually didn't have it cranked up too much, but I had to turn it down a few times because it was very chaotic. Right. And like you said, there's a lot of stuff going on. You've got the machine gun sounds, the explosions from the tank shooting at you. You've got the buildings crumbling, the screams of the monsters, all that kind of stuff. And it's great. I think it's really good. But it does start to kind of, like you said, it kind of starts to blend together in like a big, just big crash. It's like everything is crashing together, which is fine. That's what it's supposed to be. It reminds me of, I don't know if you guys ever played Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee.
I've played it a couple times, but not enough to like really remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. I mean, that's a much slower game, right? Because they're much bigger.
Yep.
But it kind of reminded me of that in a way, because that can get the same way. It gets really loud and bombastic. But again, I think you have to have that. You have to have it be chaotic, and you want it to sound like there's this war going on, like these people are trying to bring you down, and while you're having this death match in the middle of the city. So I think it does what it needs to do. I do think the only reason I'm not going a little higher is because it does start to kind of just become, it kind of blends, and you get to a point where you're just kind of, you're kind of getting a little bit desensitized to that because it's happening so often. But other than that, I'd say it's really good.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, so we were all right around the same there with sound.
That's good.
All right, let's start off. How well did you feel this game aged, Pat?
I gave this one a 4.
Okay.
Because I had fun.
Yep. That's important.
That's the main thing. I think when anybody talks about how well a game aged, you can always look at different aspects like graphics. You can look at, sound, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, really comes down to, did I have fun with this, or is it not fun anymore? It's a hard realization I've had is, while the NES was a console that I love, and that was my first console, a lot of the games that I used to play, I don't enjoy anymore. And it's not because there's anything wrong with the games. They're great, but I just don't want to sit down and play them because I get bored. And that's something that I feel like that's a hard thing for me to say.
Right. You don't want to admit it, right?
Exactly. And it's not, again, there are games on the NES that I will always play. I still love playing Mega Man, the Mega Man games, and Legend of Zelda. And, there's a lot of games that I still really enjoy, but a lot of the games that I used to enjoy when I was a kid, I can't sit down and play and have a good time with anymore. And it's like Atari. I think the Atari is great. I respect it, but I don't play it because it bores me to tears. Yeah. And that's just the truth. So for me, and it's just, but I like hand in my retro gamer card because I don't love everything. Right. It's the truth. And I think that's just, that's the main point is, did I enjoy this? Did I want to keep playing it? Did I have fun?
Right.
And I had a lot of fun playing it. It's not perfect. It shows its age, but it is fun. And I think it would be even more fun with someone else. I didn't have the ability to do that this time, but I definitely could see this being a fun game to play with someone else.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 4. Yeah.
I think so as well. I didn't quite get to 4 because the controls kept me from getting to 4. Just felt like they were super clunky, and I think that even for the time, I think looking at like a PS2 controller, I don't think there was really a reason for them to be so clunky. I think there are plenty of other games. I referenced Budokai earlier, you know what I mean, as being like a 3D, like, 3D world, like stage fighter kind of thing.
Right.
I felt like that game has really, really solid controls, and it's obviously a different type of fighter, but I never felt like I lost control of my character in that one. And I've constantly felt like I lost control of my character in this one, although I did have a lot of fun with it. That's why I couldn't bury it. I landed at a 3 with Aged because I felt like it was still a lot of fun. However, it does have some things that, I would have liked to be tightened up a little bit. Namely the characters. They were slipping around a lot. What about you, Yaiser?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2.5, just because the controls were so frustrating for me. It just felt old and uncontrollable. And, I feel like it really showed its age there. Other than that, I gotta say, the free-for-alls with 3 other monsters, was a lot of, it was more fun than I had playing the story, for sure.
Match.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. But just not being able to do what I want to do with the controller. Most of the time. Sometimes it worked, but sometimes it just, I don't know, wouldn't let me. I don't know. That was just way too frustrating for me. And like you said with Budokai, it kind of very similar type of game, right? And that game, all those games feel super smooth. you're flying around, zipping around. You got the range attacks, you got your close up attacks. It's kind of the same game, but you're not flying, I guess. But
Right.
that's just another aspect that game did, I guess, better.
Yeah. I do think it would be a lot of fun at some point, whether we stream it or even if you just come over and we just play it. Like, I think it would be a lot of fun to just kind of revisit this game in the co-op lens. You know what I mean? Where we play it together and see if our experience with it is better, or even if I don't know, tried a different character. I only played as Ape Man, so we'll see if our experience
King
is a little bit
Congo.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wish
is it Congo or Congo? Oh, Congar. King
Congar. Yeah, Congar. What were we gonna say, Yaiser?
I'm sure my scores would have been a lot higher in gameplay and aged if we sat down and played together.
Yeah. Probably. So so getting the final scores here. I think we're all pretty close. I don't think we're too far away on this one. I landed at a solid 3, like just a straight up 3 as an overall, which doesn't really happen a lot. So that's good. Yaiser landed at a 2.88. And
that sounds about right for what he said.
Yeah. Still, so we always consider, right? Like if you're rating it at a 5, then 2.5 has got to be average, right?
Yeah.
So 2.88, higher than average. And then Pat was the highest on the game at 3.55.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Fair.
Yeah, but I mean overall, I think it was a pretty positive experience. I mean, I know Yaiser had his frustrations, and I certainly had frustrations as well. But overall we landed at a 3.14, and that's pie. So
that's pie.
I'm pretty happy about that.
I think that's a good one.
All right. Now's the time of the show where we randomize the next game we play, and then get to read a little bit of a description here to see if Pat can guess the game.
Oh man.
You excited?
Oh yeah, terrified.
All right.
No, we'll see. We'll see.
Here
These are challenging.
Spin it.
All right. We have a side-scrolling action platformer released in 1991, published and developed by Capcom, and it was released for the Super Nintendo.
1991?
Yep.
Capcom side-scroller, 1991 Super Nintendo. Action platformer.
Yep.
Well,
it has since been re-released on the Wii, the Wii U, and the Nintendo Switch.
Well, I know that it's not Mega Man X because that was 93. All right, let me think. Capcom, which I love Capcom, so I have to really... I'm going to hand in my card if I don't know this. Can we ask for hints?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most people don't.
Is this like...
I like that.
I'm not most people. No. No, is it based on a licensed property like Disney or something like that?
No.
Okay. That helps. Side-scrolling action platformer, 1991 Capcom.
I'll tell you also, it is a sequel to an NES game.
Like number 2?
It doesn't say number 2.
Okay. Doesn't say. Well, okay. Sequel to an NES game, Capcom, 1991 side-scroller.
It also spawned a spin-off series that also spanned the NES, the Game Boy, and the Super Nintendo.
Is this helping?
Oh. It'll come. I'm hoping it'll come to me here because I feel like I should know what this is. This is a tough one. Because I'm trying to think of what would have been 1991. One more hint, and then I'll give up if I don't know.
You want me to give you one more hint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me those hints. Sweet hints.
You play as a heroic knight.
Oh. Is it Super Ghouls and Ghosts?
It is Super Ghouls and
Okay.
Ghosts. Nice.
That helps.
Nice.
Arthur.
I didn't want to say Arthur.
Yeah. No. You're good. I mean, I needed some hints. It's actually, I didn't realize that came out in 91, but yeah.
Yeah, that was earlier than I thought too. I thought it was like 93 or 94.
I did too, because it looks good. Capcom made beautiful games on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah, so that one obviously a sequel to Ghouls and Ghosts, which can I just
Ghosts
say
and Goblins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ghosts and
Yes.
Goblins, and I hate that it switched
One of the
from
hardest games I've ever played.
I hate that it switched from Ghosts and Goblins to Super Ghouls and Ghosts. That drives me crazy a little bit.
Yeah.
But of course the spin-off series would be Gargoyle's Quest and Demon's Crest.
Demon's Crest. Great game.
Yeah, that one's a lot of fun too. So we will have YouTuber Scott Squatch joining us for that one.
Okay. Cool.
He's a pretty cool guy. He works for Korn, actually. He tours with them. Interesting. That's the band.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Now's the time for you to give us a retro recommendation to add to our list.
It's entirely possible you guys have played this, but if not, hopefully it'll be a treat for you. Now, I had decided on something, and then midway through the recording, I changed my mind. So what I was originally going to recommend was the Lost Vikings.
Okay.
But cool. Which you can throw that on the list too if you want. I can give you two if you want it.
Yep. Some people.
Lost Vikings is a really good co-op game, so it's better if you have a friend to play with.
Okay.
But since we were talking about my favorite genre, which is horror, I chose Clock Tower.
Cool.
So now this has been translated. Obviously, it only came out in Japan, but it has been translated very well. And so if you want to play it, you can get. You guys say you emulate, so you can get the English copy. I have a copy of it on my SNES Mini, which I modded it. So, but it is a very unique game. Don't go in there expecting to just get it right off the bat. There's a lot of different endings. There's a lot of random things that can happen differently. So you guys may have a very different experience. So I absolutely recommend that.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
And it's spooky. It's actually kind of scary for an SNES game.
Yeah. I've always wanted to give that one a go, so definitely happy to add that one to the list.
Clock Tower is my recommendation.
Sick.
And just as like a final review, Pat, would you recommend that somebody plays War of the Monsters? If they had never played it before, you're like, go ahead and dedicate some time to it.
I think so. I think it's worth picking it up. There's again, if you want something just to kind of turn your brain off and have a good time, have some fun, and especially if you've got someone else to play with you. Because I do feel like, as Yaiser said, he probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more if there had been someone else he could have played with. And I do think that a lot of those games, the AI can only do so much.
Right.
It's more fun to just sit on the floor or sit in your recliners and play a game and laugh and have a good time. And I think this game would be a good one for that.
For sure. Even just like a good, I guess, example of that is never would I have thought that I would have enjoyed Kings of the Beach on NES, but I actually have very fond memories of my brother and I trying to beat that game as a team, and so now it's like one of my favorite NES games just because of that. And if I ever tried to just sit there and play it by myself, I'd probably hate the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Playing it with a friend always
absolutely.
helps. But Yaiser, what about you? You recommend it?
I wouldn't call it like a must play, know, but like if you see it, looks cool to you, go ahead, grab it. Maybe you won't get as pissed off as me, and definitely play with a friend. It's probably way more fun with a friend for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that's going to be my stipulation as well. I think if you and a buddy want to give it a go, then I think that's definitely the way to go. But I wouldn't call this a must play either. I think that there's probably a solid 25 to 30 PS2 games I would list as must plays over this one. You know what I mean? But that's just the type of game it is too. You know what I mean? Like it's really just it's just a monster fighting game. So it's not going to be
Rampage. If you like Godzilla games, give it a shot.
It's not going to be Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to get that from it. But I mean, overall, I don't think that bad of a game. Pretty happy that I got to play it. It's actually the first game that I was able to beat in 2023. I wanted to try and get 25 games beaten, whether it's for the show or on my own time, and that was number one for me. So
good,
nice, pretty excited about it. Yeah,
congrats.
Thanks, man.
Kicking it off with a bang.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's it for us for this week. Make sure to do the liking, the commenting, all that kind of stuff. Pat, you want to tell them where they can find you one last time?
Sure. Yeah. So as far as our podcast is concerned, you can find that pretty much anywhere. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on everything. So just look up the Retro Blast podcast. On Twitter, we are Retro Blast US. Or you can just search our show name in there. But we're most active on Twitter, as you guys probably know. That's where we spend a lot of our time. And so please come, check us out there. And and we're on Instagram and stuff like that, but we don't use it as much. Again, Twitter's kind of our primary communication space. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course.
Yeah.
See you later.
Peace.